When did a fake online relationship shatter your reality at rock bottom? I'm sitting here at 3:17 a.m. in the deserted TV room of this goddamn rehab center, staring at the screen of my beat-up iPhone 14, the one with the cracked screen I keep promising myself it'll fix, and I just found out that everything I thought I knew about the last 3 months of my life is a total flaming pile of garbage. Literally, a whole month of my sanity gone, because some idiot thought it would be funny to run a catfish scheme on people who are already at their absolute lowest point. This is Amy Gray, 55F, and I am officially done. Done with caring for people, done with pretending things are fine, and done with the universe thinking it's hilarious to drop major psychological trauma on me while I'm trying to manage a schedule that includes mandatory group therapy at 8 a.m. GL, I'm currently subsisting on lukewarm Starbucks instant coffee and whatever Talenti gelato I smuggled in from my last trip to the Costco. You guys know the drill, right? We're all here at Serenity Pines, a deeply depressing, vaguely beige facility that smells faintly of bleach and old disappointment. I'm here because my husband, who is not one of the characters I am about to talk about, but is the reason I am an exhausted caregiver, finally agreed to get help for his own issues. He's in the other wing. I'm just trying to survive the mandatory family weekend program, which is less about support and more about watching wealthy people awkwardly confront their drug-addicted children while I try to figure out if I can afford the $1,247 rent payment next month if I take 2 more unpaid days off work. So the complication, the group chat. Every single person here, family members included, is required to participate in the digital detox and emotional openness group, which naturally necessitated the creation of a massive WhatsApp group chat called Serenity Now. I know, the irony is not lost on me. It's supposed to be for sharing homework assignments, inspirational quotes, and checking in. Mostly it's just passive-aggressive gifs and people complaining about the Netflix selection in the common area. This is where the main players come in, and you need to understand how messed up this dynamic was before the leak. First, there's Jose Alexander, 70M. Jose is here because he has a serious, life-ruining compulsive gambling problem. Think $200 withdrawals every single time he sees an ATM, losing the security deposit on their last apartment, the works. He's the sweetest guy, honestly, but he's like a lost puppy who looks at everyone like they're holding the winning lottery ticket. His wife is at her breaking point. Jose is trying to seem engaged, but mostly he just uses the common area computers to check sports scores and occasionally asks me to help him with the Zelle app because he's terrified of technology. Then there is Caleb Green, 74M. Caleb is here as the estranged in-law of another patient. He's retired, extremely wealthy, and absolutely oozing judgmental energy. Caleb is the kind of guy who constantly wears a polo shirt and expensive loafers, even during meditation sessions. He has the social grace of a wet sponge, and to put it mildly, he's a massive homophobe who loves to lecture the younger patients about traditional values and how things were in my day. Literally cornered me Tuesday at 11:47 a.m. and spent 15 minutes detailing why young people shouldn't buy avocado toast because it leads to moral decay. I just stood there nodding, thinking about how I really needed to pick up milk and whether my 2018 Honda Civic was going to make it through another winter. Finally, the little monster, Albert Flores, 18M. Albert is technically here for an internet addiction failure to launch program. This kid is supposed to be looking for a job, any job, but he literally spends 14 hours a day glued to his Samsung Galaxy, streaming Hulu and Disney Plus, and playing some ridiculous battle royale game. He won't even leave the facility grounds to go pick up his own Chipotle. He constantly asks people to Venmo him $10 for emergency energy drinks. He thinks he's smarter than everyone, which, when you're 18 and still demanding your mom pay your $43.67 Trader Joe's grocery bill, is truly a feat of self-delusion. Okay, now the catfish situation. About 3 weeks ago, a new person joined the Serenity Now chat. They called themselves Luna77, and they claimed to be the daughter of one of the support staff, currently volunteering at a women's shelter downtown. Luna77 was incredible. It was insightful, she was empathetic, she was funny, and she had the kind of wise beyond her years advice that people in rehab are starving for. Luna77 was the only person who could handle Caleb's aggressive pronouncements. Caleb, who usually treats women like they are annoying background noise, became obsessed. He would send her long, rambling private messages about his difficult past, his regret over neglecting his family, and get this, he started using emojis. I swear to God. Caleb Green, 74M, sending the crying face emoji. But the most dramatic transformation was Jose. Jose Alexander, 70M, who spends all his time looking miserable, started talking about hope. Luna77 found out about his gambling and didn't lecture him, she just listened. She texted him detailed inspirational messages every morning around 7 a.m., and he would literally print them out and tape them to his bathroom mirror. He told me during a smoke break, I know, bad habit, but I need it, that Luna77 was the closest thing he had to a sponsor who actually understood him. He even bought a new Apple Watch just so he could be sure he didn't miss her messages, even though he had no idea how to use most of the features. Luna77 was also very clear about needing money for the shelter. Not a lot, just $50 here, $100 there, for essential supplies like warm blankets or special formula. She would send incredibly detailed PayPal invoices. I'm ashamed to admit I even sent her $50, mostly because I was so desperate for someone positive to be in this miserable place. Over the course of 3 weeks, Luna77 became the emotional center of our wing. We're all sharing intimate details, our fears, our failings, our absolute exhaustion, and all of it was going to Luna77. Yesterday, things started to feel weird. Jose was freaking out because he sent Luna77 $200 via Cash App for a kid's emergency dental bill, and she hadn't responded in 24 hours. This was unusual because Luna77 usually responded in 3 minutes flat. He had tried calling the number she gave him 27 times in 1 hour, and it just went straight to voicemail. I tried to calm him down, telling him the shelter might just be busy, but even I was getting a knot in my stomach. The previous week, Caleb had quietly mentioned that he had helped Luna77 secure a $347 bill payment for the shelter's new utility setup. Jose and Caleb, two people who literally could not tolerate being in the same room 5 feet apart without someone mentioning politics, were bonding over their dedication to this phantom volunteer. It was bizarre. Then, at 5:30 p.m. during our gratitude circle session, Caleb started talking about how Luna77 had inspired him to reconsider some of his lifelong views. He looked directly at a young gay patient and said, "I might not understand your path, but Luna taught me that everyone deserves dignity." It was a huge character moment. It was moving. Jose almost teared up. And then Albert Flores, 18M, started laughing. Not a quiet chuckle. A full, wheezing, choking sound of absolute hysteria that made the counselor stop mid-sentence. We all turned to look at him. Albert's face was bright red, he was hunched over his Samsung Galaxy, and he was desperately trying to stop himself from making noise. "Albert, is something wrong?" the counselor asked, sounding tight. Albert just gasped, "No, nothing. I just saw a really funny TikTok." He shoved his phone in his pocket, but I noticed his notifications were currently sitting at 47, and the screen background was a screenshot of the Serenity Now WhatsApp chat. Specifically, a screenshot of Jose's lengthy, heartbreaking confession about his shame over gambling debt. I felt my stomach drop, the kind of heavy, dizzy feeling you get right before you throw up. I wanted to tell myself I was overreacting, that I was just tired and stressed, and that the only reason I was suspicious of Albert was because he hadn't left his room in 72 hours and smelled vaguely of stale Doritos. But the math wasn't mathing. Sheer volume of Luna77's responses. The perfect grammar, except for the occasional, intentional typo like "I'm serious," that sounded exactly like the way Albert texted. The specific requests for Cash App and Venmo, which are definitely the preferred apps of an 18-year-old gamer. I went back to my room, heart racing, and I couldn't breathe properly. I knew I needed hard proof before I blew up 3 weeks of fragile emotional stability. I started scrolling back through the Serenity Now chat history, looking for patterns. I didn't find the pattern in the main chat. I found it in the small, private subgroup that Caleb and Jose had started just for the two of them. The one Caleb had accidentally told me about when he was bragging about paying the $347 bill. It was called Luna's Angels. I wasn't supposed to be in it, but Caleb is technologically inept and added about 20 people on accident, including me, before quickly deleting everyone except Jose and Luna77. I, of course, hadn't noticed until that moment. And there it was, everything. 2:45 a.m. today, Jose was still panicked about the silence from Luna77 and was typing out a long, rambling message to Caleb about how he was worried he should have sent $400 instead of $200. Maybe the dental bill was higher. Caleb responded, saying, "Don't worry, Jose. We must trust Luna. She is pure. I will send her the last of the funds for the plumber charge $85 in the morning." And 2 minutes later, an entirely different message appeared in the thread. It wasn't written like Caleb. It was fast, full of abbreviations, and it was sent as a reply to Caleb's final message about the $85 plumber charge. The message read, "NGL Calbi, that was a smooth transition. THNX for the extra. BTW, I need that screenshot of Jose's gambling story for the next chapter. He literally writes like a soap opera. LOL." I saw red. Literally saw nothing but red and the fluorescent glare of my phone screen. The text wasn't from Caleb. It was sent from Luna77's number, but the voice was clearly Albert. And immediately below that message, maybe 10 seconds later, was a horrified, frantic triple text. "OMG, not this chat. Shit, delete, delete, delete," but it was too late. The next message was from Caleb Green, 74M. It was just 3 words, sent at 2:50 a.m. "Who are you?" I closed my eyes. My hands were shaking so hard I had to put the iPhone on the floor before I dropped it. The catfish wasn't a stranger. It was the 18-year-old gamer who wouldn't get a job, using this group of vulnerable, emotionally broken adults to fund his energy drink habit, and I assume buy some skins for his video game. He had leaked his own operation into the wrong private group chat. I stood up, needing air, needing to scream, needing to hit something. I was so disgusted, but mainly I was furious on behalf of Jose Alexander, who was finally finding a reason to hope, and Caleb Green, who was finally showing a flicker of humanity. I walked out of the TV room down the long, linoleum-floored hallway towards the wing where Jose and Caleb's rooms were located. The group chat was silent now, completely dead. The 3 participants were all awake, reeling from the sudden, catastrophic reveal. I knew Jose was in there, probably sobbing, realizing that the one person who understood him was just Albert Flores looking for $200. I knew Caleb was awake, having his brief moment of empathy and spiritual growth snatched away, realizing he had been played for a fool by a teenager he already hated. I gripped the cold metal door handle of Jose's room. I could hear rustling inside. Just as I raised my hand to knock, my phone buzzed. It wasn't the WhatsApp group. It was a new text message. From Caleb. "Amy, do not go to Jose's room. I just saw Albert leave his room and he looks like he's about to jump in front of a bus. We need to talk before he does something stupid, and more importantly, before he shows everyone in the main chat all the things we told Luna." I froze. I own incredibly embarrassing, deeply personal confessions about the last 2 years, 8 months of my marriage. The ones I had only shared because I thought I was talking to an angel of empathy were now in the possession of an emotionally stunted 18-year-old. I looked down the hall. I saw a door crack open. It wasn't Caleb's. It was Albert's room, apartment 3B, and a narrow sliver of light illuminated his face. He was pale, terrified, and staring right at me. It looked like he was about to bolt. And I realized, the complication wasn't just that he catfished us for money. The complication was that this kid now held the psychological and emotional nuclear codes to everyone in the Serenity Now group. And if Caleb was right, he was about to go fully public with the group chat leak that would destroy reputations and shatter the last threads of trust holding this entire dysfunctional rehab family together. What was I supposed to do? For the elderly man whose heart just got broken, or chase down the desperate, potentially suicidal teenager holding my deepest secrets hostage? I don't even know what I'm doing here. I was literally just trying to get some rest for 2 weeks. I took a deep breath. I needed to move fast. But who do I go after first? I took a breath that tasted like lukewarm coffee and industrial strength cleaning product, and I made a choice. I couldn't handle Jose sobbing. Not right then. Was heartbroken, yes, but he was also physically safe in his room. Albert, on the other hand, was pale, shaking, and holding the nuclear launch codes to my entire personal life. If he bolted and dumped everything into the main Serenity Now chat, the one with 70 people including my husband's judgmental sister, I was toast. Absolute toast. I let go of Jose's door handle. It made a loud metallic click that sounded deafening in the silent 3:30 a.m. hallway. Walked toward 3B toward Albert. He saw me coming and flinched back like I was going to physically attack him. "Albert, stop," I said, my voice coming out in a sharp, low rasp. I was surprisingly calm. Maybe it was the shock, or maybe I was just too tired for hysteria. He tried to slam the door, but I stuck my foot out just in time. NGL, I channeled every moment I spent arguing with my teenage kids about doing their homework into that move. "Amy, go away. I didn't mean to." "It was a mistake," he whispered, frantic. He smelled faintly of desperation and stale pizza. "I know it was a mistake, Albert. The mistake was charging Caleb Green $85 for a fictional plumber and then leaking your plan into the wrong chat. The mistake was not getting a job. The mistake was not the catfishing itself. That was just plain cruel. Now we are going to talk, and you are going to put your phone on the floor and tell me how many people have seen my marriage issues." I pushed the door open the rest of the way and stepped inside. His room was exactly what you'd expect. 2 monitors, 3 empty energy drink cans, wires everywhere, and clothes piled high on the single chair. The main lights were off, but the screens cast an eerie blue glow. He backed up until he hit the desk, clutching his Samsung like a life raft. "No one, just you, Caleb, and Jose," and I deleted everything. I deleted the whole thread, I swear. You can't delete things from Caleb's phone, Albert. He literally uses his device exclusively to make phone calls and check the weather. And you can't delete things from my phone. I have the receipts, Albert, all of them, and so does Caleb. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. I was shaking now. Not from anger, just exhaustion and sheer adrenaline overload. "Look, I know you're terrified," I started, trying to inject some of the Luna 77 empathy I had been fooled by. "You should be. You've committed fraud, you've broken the trust of multiple extremely vulnerable people, and you've stolen money from a 70-year-old man who is already dealing with a serious addiction." Albert started crying. Real, heavy 18-year-old boy sobs. "I didn't steal, I just needed money for the battle pass. I only got $50 from Jose. Caleb gave me money, but he was so annoying about it, preaching all the time, NGL. Albert, Jose sent you at least $250. Caleb sent you over $400. And I sent you $50. That's almost $700. It's not about the money though, Albert. It's about the emotional damage." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my most intimate message to Luna 77, the one where I detailed how I found my husband's relapse evidence and how I was too scared to leave him because I didn't know how I'd afford the mortgage alone. Reading those raw words on the screen made me feel physically ill. "This, Albert, this is what you have. You think this is funny or soap opera worthy, but this is my life. If this gets out, it destroys me." Albert looked down at the floor, muttering, "I didn't show anyone, okay? I just screenshotted Jose's stuff because it was so dramatic. I thought I could use it as like character backstory in my game forum. It was dumb. I know it was dumb." I rubbed my temples. This was worse than I thought. Not only had he stolen, but he was exploiting our pain for internet clout. "Okay, here's how this goes. Right now only Caleb, Jose, and I know who you are. The rest of the Serenity Pines community only knows Luna 77 went silent. We need to keep it that way." Albert looked up, shocked. "You're not going to tell the counselors?" "I want to. God, I want to call security and have them march you out in handcuffs, Albert. Here's the problem. If I expose you now in this state, you might panic and hit send all on whatever files you have. And even if you don't, Caleb will. And if Caleb tells everyone, all our fragile recovery process is shatter and everyone's dirty laundry, especially mine, is airing out on WhatsApp." I looked him straight in the eyes. "So, we are going to make a deal. You are going to give me your phone. Right now, you can have the loaner phone the center provides. You are going to tell me exactly where that $700 went." He hesitated. "The phone has all my games. Albert, you are an emotional terrorist who just victimized 2 elderly men. I do not care about your games. Hand me the phone." He finally, miserably, slid the Samsung across the desk to me. I powered it off and slipped it into my back pocket. I felt a surge of cold, pragmatic power. "Now, we go talk to Caleb and Jose." Update this morning, 7:15 a.m. I dragged Albert out of his room and marched him down the hall. We knocked on Caleb's door first. Caleb opened the door instantly. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. His expensive polo shirt was wrinkled and his face was gray. He took one look at Albert and his jaw clenched. You little Caleb, stop," I interrupted. "We need to talk quietly. Albert is cooperating." He gave me his phone. "I need to figure out the Jose situation and how to keep this contained." We went into Caleb's immaculate beige room. He kept glancing at Albert with pure, unfiltered disgust. "He ruined everything, Amy. I was changing. Luna, HIM told me that I needed to forgive my son-in-law for being different. I actually thought I had achieved some kind of spiritual breakthrough, and it was just this greedy little maggot trying to buy V-Bucks." Caleb was trembling. "I know, Caleb. It's devastating," I said honestly. But Albert is still a kid. He was desperate and he targeted vulnerability. We need to focus. Jose is the immediate threat. He bought an Apple Watch just to talk to Luna. If he finds out the truth right now, he might relapse into gambling just to cope with the pain. Caleb sighed, sinking onto his bed. Jose and I spoke briefly after the message. I told him there was a glitch in the chat. Luna had to go silent because of a family emergency at the shelter. It was a terrible lie, but he seemed to accept it for the time being. Good. We maintain that lie, I confirmed. Albert, you need to write a final message from Luna to Jose. It has to be vague, hopeful, and give him permission to move on, suggesting that he needs to find his support closer to home. Albert looked confused. But I need my phone to text. You're going to write it out. I'm going to type it on a burner app on my phone, and then I'm deleting the app. And then I delete your Samsung, Albert. Everything is wiped clean. This never happened financially, emotionally, or digitally. You pay back the $700 and we keep quiet. Albert looked miserable. I don't have $700. I have $14 in my checking account. This was the complication I expected. Caleb, surprising me yet again, spoke up. We'll cover Jose's money. I can't stand the thought of that man thinking his one source of hope was also an extortion attempt. I'll send him $300 anonymously saying it's an unexpected lottery win or something. I shook my head. No, Caleb, you can't reward Albert. Albert has to find a job, get a job, and pay us both back. Starting with me, my $50 first. But Amy, that could take months, Caleb argued. Then it takes months. This is Albert's consequence. He needs to face the reality of the damage he caused. I need him to look me in the eye when he hands me that money, even if it's $5 at a time. This isn't just about financial restitution. It's about forcing development on an 18-year-old who thinks the world owes him energy drinks. Caleb stared at me, then at Albert. Fine, but the minute he misses a payment, I am telling the staff everything. Fair enough. Now, the final Luna message. Albert, under duress, wrote out a truly terrible, overly dramatic paragraph about how she had to follow a new path, and that Jose's spirit was too strong to need her anymore. I edited it down, stripping away the teenage melodrama and making it sound more like the gentle, wise beyond her years Luna. I sent the text. Jose replied immediately with a single, sad understood. Thank you for everything. The silence in Caleb's room was heavy. We had managed the immediate crisis. Albert was neutralized. Jose was sad but intact, believing in a fictional volunteer's noble exit. And Caleb and I, the exhausted caregiver and the homophobic in-law, were now uneasy co-conspirators in a grand lie. A week went by where I felt like a double agent. I wasn't sleeping, NGL. Every time I saw Albert in the common area, I glared at him until he physically flinched. He was miserable. He had to use the center's crappy phone, which meant no high-speed gaming, no streaming. He just sat there, listless, smelling less like stale Doritos and more like pure existential angst. Caleb and I had developed this weird, silent partnership. We would exchange tense looks in the dining hall, a nod confirming, yes, the lie holds. The hardest part was Jose. He looked lost. He kept asking me if I thought Luna 77 was going to come back. She helped me, Amy. Haven't even looked at a sports betting website since she started talking to me. He confided in me over terrible facility coffee. I wanted to scream the truth, but I looked at his sweet, gullible face and I couldn't. Jose, sometimes the greatest lessons come from brief encounters. She gave you the tools, now you have to use them, I said, reciting the kind of therapeutic garbage I usually mocked. He looked thoughtful. You're right. I need to find something else to fill the hole, though. Something concrete. And then he did something incredibly Jose. He asked me, Amy, you seem smart with computers. Can you teach me how to use the Zelle app? My wife is still refusing to teach me anything technical because she thinks I'll gamble the money away. I spent the next 2 days teaching Jose how to Zelle $50 to his daughter for her birthday. It was tedious and frustrating, and he kept hitting the wrong buttons, but seeing the pure joy on his face when the transaction finally went through was incredibly gratifying. It was real, tangible connection, not a catfish scheme. Fast forward to Friday, 11:00 a.m. Albert had a meltdown. It happened during a mandatory job readiness workshop. The counselor was talking about resume formatting, and Albert just stood up and shouted, I don't need a resume. I was making $700 in passive income. I don't need minimum wage. The room went silent. I felt my stomach clench. He was going to blow it. Albert, that's inappropriate. Please sit down, the counselor said firmly. No, you don't understand. Everyone here is so stupid and easy to manipulate. They're all just desperate for someone to care. He was pointing directly at Jose. Jose looked utterly bewildered. Caleb was white with rage and stood up, ready to physically drag Albert out. I intervened instantly. I knew exactly what to say because I had lived the lie for a week. Albert, enough, I shouted, standing between him and Jose. Are you really going to disrespect the memory of Luna 77 like that? She worked tirelessly to help people, and all you can think about is money. I pivoted the narrative instantly. Luna had to leave because she was working in a tough environment. She was dealing with people who were so cynical and damaged they couldn't see the good right in front of them. She left because she was exhausted by the negativity. And you, Albert, with your entitlement and your constant complaining about having to get a job, are exactly the kind of toxic person she was trying to get away from. I laid it on thick, leaning into the therapeutic language. It was a performance for the ages. Jose, bless his heart, bought it instantly. Amy is right, Albert. You sound very selfish. Luna helped me find hope, and you are just angry because you can't play video games right now. Caleb, realizing what I was doing, settled back down and looked approvingly at me. He mouthed, good save. Albert was too stunned to argue. The counselor rushed him out of the room, promising an emergency one-on-one session. Crisis averted, barely. But it made me realize how quickly this lie could fall apart. That afternoon, I met Albert in the small, unused chapel for our weekly financial meeting. You almost ruined everything, Albert. You panicked, I said, crossing my arms. I can't do minimum wage, my whole life is online. Then you need to find a way to monetize your skills that doesn't involve fraud. You are clearly good at digital engagement. Maybe you can design graphics. Maybe you can teach people like Jose how to use technology, but you have to start repaying the debt. He pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. This is from the cash my mom sent me for laundry. I took the $20. Okay, $680 remaining. You need to start thinking creatively about how you are going to earn this back, and you need to start realizing that the vulnerable people here are not just NPCs in your video game. NGL, I just wanted to feel smart, he admitted quietly. Everyone here treats me like a literal baby, and Luna, me was the only one who seemed like she knew anything. You were manipulative, not smart, Albert. There's a difference, I countered. Now go talk to Jose, not as Luna, just as Albert. Help him figure out his Zelle problem. Do some real unmonetized good. If you impress me, maybe I'll unlock your phone for 30 minutes to check your email. He actually looked relieved at the chance for an assignment. He scurried off. It's been 2 weeks since the leak. The situation with my husband in the other wing is, predictably, a mess. He keeps canceling our scheduled visitation times, claiming he needs more intensive solo processing. I know what that means. He's avoiding talking about the future because the future involves him getting a job and contributing financially, which he has no intention of doing. I realized during my therapy session, which, TBH, I mostly used to vent about the catfish situation now, that I was using the Albert/Caleb/Jose drama as a distraction from confronting my own reality. I was so focused on being the heroic fixer for these strangers that I was neglecting the necessary steps to fix my own life. My therapist, a very patient woman named Dr. Chen, finally called me out. Amy, you are organizing the finances of a catfish, managing the emotional stability of a compulsive gambler, and helping a homophobe process regret. But you haven't looked at the cost of renting a one-bedroom apartment since your last session. Ouch, she was right. By Tuesday, I was back in the real world, financially speaking. I had a coffee date with my best friend, Sarah, who works in accounting. I had texted her the full, chaotic story, complete with screenshots, excluding my personal confession, of course. Sarah's response was pure, beautiful rage. Albert Flores needs to be flayed and turned into a rug, Amy, and you are not his mother. You need to get your divorce paperwork sorted. Stop cleaning up Serenity Pine's messes. She helped me set up a budget. The reality, the rent I was worried about was unsustainable if I stayed in the house alone. I needed to move. Pronto. This coincided with an unexpected text from Caleb Green. Caleb, Amy, can we meet outside of the center? I need your advice on a business matter. I will buy you a decent cup of coffee. Me, the coffee here is bad, NGL. But outside meeting is against policy. Caleb, I am paying the staff $100 to look the other way for 30 minutes at the Dunkin' across the street. This is urgent. Met him at Dunkin' Donuts. Caleb seemed visibly offended by the non-Starbucks atmosphere. LOL, he was holding a briefcase. Amy, I've been thinking about what you said. About Albert needing to earn money and using his skills, Caleb began, stirring his coffee with an intensity usually reserved for brain surgery. Yes, it's about responsibility, Caleb. It's about more than that. I was fooled because I was desperately seeking affirmation. I needed to be the hero, the provider. That little scammer preyed on it. Caleb looked genuinely ashamed. But Albert is good with tech, you said, and I am retiring and my estate paperwork is a mess. All my accounts are linked and my son-in-law, who I have treated terribly for years, is the only one who really understands the modern financial world. He opened the briefcase. It was full of papers, bank statements, passwords, stock market printouts. I need a complete digital reorganization. I need someone who understands security, who understands the way teenagers talk, who can look at my entire system and tell me where I'm vulnerable to fraud, Caleb explained. I need someone sharp, ruthless, and highly motivated. I need Albert Flores. My jaw dropped. Caleb, you want to hire the guy who just conned you out of $400. Exactly. He knows the system better than anyone. It's like hiring a reformed thief to design your vault. Plus, it gives him a legitimate way to pay off the debt to you and Jose, and it keeps him busy and off the gaming forums. It was a brilliant, highly manipulative, Caleb Green-level solution. It was also, weirdly, a massive character arc for him. He wasn't just fixing his finances. He was swallowing his pride, admitting vulnerability, and offering a kid a genuine chance to develop real-world skills. Critically, it was an acknowledgement that his previous attitude toward Albert was part of the problem. You'll have to pay him minimum wage, and the first $660 goes directly to me, Caleb, to pay off the debt, I instructed, suddenly acting as Albert's impromptu employment lawyer. And you have to treat him with respect. No more lectures on avocado toast. Caleb sighed dramatically. Fine, but I am not going to respect the TikTok dances he shows me. Deal. 3 days after that, the confrontation happened. I was finally ready to tackle my marriage situation. I walked into my husband's wing, which smelled less depressing than ours, TBH, and found him in the library. We need to talk about the lease, I said, putting a printed copy of the divorce papers. I had quietly downloaded them on the table. He looked up, surprised. Amy, what is this? I thought we were working on us. We are. I am working on me. Me means I need financial stability and respect. You haven't come to a single shared session, and you keep making excuses. You have spent 3 months processing your issues, and I have spent 3 months dealing with a catfish situation, managing 2 geriatric patients, and somehow teaching a teenager how to be a responsible human being, all while trying to keep our mortgage afloat. I am done. I was calm. Too calm. I need you to sign the lease buyout and agree to the payment plan for the accumulated debt. I'm moving out by the end of the month. He started to cry. Real, tears in his eyes, tears. Amy, don't leave me. I can't do this without you. You're my rock. I am an exhausted caregiver, not a rock, and I am putting my own life vest on first, I replied, feeling absolutely nothing. It was liberating. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. We've been married for 30 years. You can't just leave. What about your confession to Luna? You said you were afraid to be alone. The air went out of my lungs. You saw those messages? I whispered. He nodded sheepishly. I saw them on your phone one morning. You left the chat open. I know you're scared, Amy. That's why you need me. I realized two things instantly. One, my most vulnerable confessions were not in the hands of Albert Flores alone. Two, my husband, the man I was leaving, had read my deepest fears, understood my financial desperation, and instead of reassuring me, he had used that knowledge as emotional leverage. The catfish situation had been cruel. This was just pure malice. You read my private messages, knew I was terrified, and used that fear against me right now to try and stop me from leaving, I said, standing up. I gathered the divorce papers. My hands were shaking again, but this time from clarity. I'm not scared of being alone anymore. I'm scared of being stuck here with you. I'm scared of the exhaustion. The catfish situation taught me one thing. I am incredibly resourceful and capable of managing absolute chaos. I managed a fraud ring and 2 broken old men. I can manage paying a slightly higher rent somewhere else. I am not signing the lease buyout, I am signing the divorce papers. My lawyer will be in touch. I walked out. I didn't look back. I felt simultaneously lighter and like I might collapse from the force of that confrontation. I drove straight to the nearest Starbucks, the good one, not the instant sludge, and sat in the parking lot for an hour just breathing. So 2 weeks later, I am typing this from a temporary furnished apartment that smells a bit like lemon-scented cleaning products and is significantly smaller than my old house, but honestly, it's mine. The air is quiet. There are no mandatory group therapy sessions. Haven't seen an empty energy drink can in days. I am officially in the middle of divorce proceedings, and it's messy and expensive, just like Sarah warned me, but I am dealing with it. And the Serenity Pines crew? Albert Flores is currently working 15 hours a week for Caleb Green, sorting through his retirement accounts. Caleb pays him in Zelle transfers. Ironically, the same app Jose finally mastered. Albert is miserable about the work, but secretly thriving. Even sent me a screenshot of a complicated spreadsheet he built for Caleb, adding the caption, "NGL, this is kinda satisfying. He's paid me back $120 so far. Slow, but steady. This is real growth, not Luna 77 growth." Caleb Green is still wearing the expensive loafers, but he's significantly quieter in group sessions. He no longer lectures about avocado toast. Cornered me yesterday to thank me, sincerely, for the intervention with Albert. He said, "I think I finally realized that young people have value, even if they dress poorly and listen to terrible music. Baby steps, people, baby steps." Jose Alexander is doing great. He still thinks Luna 77 was a real person who moved on to bigger things, and he uses her inspirational wisdom as motivation. But his real support system is now concrete and local. He and Albert have an incredibly odd relationship. Albert is teaching Jose how to use Facebook Messenger, and Jose is teaching Albert how to play poker, for pennies only, strictly against the rules of the rehab, but I'm choosing to ignore it because it's real, non-digital human interaction. Jose looks hopeful, truly hopeful, for the first time. The catfish lie holds. No one outside of our small triangle knows the truth. Caleb, Albert, and I share this weird, dark secret that binds us together. It's absolutely bonkers, but it worked. I still have my phone, and sometimes, late at night, I scroll past the archived Luna's Angels chat, reading Albert's frantic shit messages. It's a reminder of how quickly things can fall apart, and how even the most exhausting crises can force you to make necessary, painful choices. I'm getting better at setting boundaries. I told my boss I needed to take the rest of my accumulated PTO to deal with the logistics of the move. She was supportive. I even managed to change the Netflix password today. Seriously, that felt better than any therapy session. I still have moments of weakness. Yesterday, I saw a Talenti gelato flavor I hadn't tried yet, and for a split second, I thought about smuggling it into the rehab center. Then I remembered I wasn't going back, and I bought 2 pints just for me. Resolution is less about a perfect apology. Albert apologized, but what does an 18-year-old apology even mean? And more about the cleanup. It's messy. I'm broke. I'm sleeping on an air mattress until my furniture arrives. But I am free from the suffocating responsibility of caregiving for people who weren't ready to help themselves, and I know exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. I might still be an exhausted caregiver, but now I'm only taking care of me. Yesterday, Sarah came over and we watched a stupid movie. I actually laughed out loud, like a real, honest, unrestrained laugh. And I realized, watching that stupid movie, that I am gonna be okay. We'll update if Caleb decides to adopt Albert, or if my husband's lawyer tries to use my $50 Luna payment against me in court. Wish me luck with the movers. NGL, I need it.